Welcome one, welcome all. My name is Soul Expression, and it is very good to be here with you today. I am very excited. Today is my first live, and uh, I've been so inspired by so many people that I like to watch on YouTube who go live that I'm just excited. I'm excited whether I get a viewer, whether I don't. I already got one. Praise God. Peace and love, young bro. Um, Today we are going to be getting into the Inner Storyteller, a philosophical map. Now, the Inner Storyteller, of course, is my book. You can get a copy right here at innerstoryteller.card with an extra r.co. And the book itself is my life's work, right? It's what I'm my contribution to the natural law community and the natural law philosophy, as well as my contribution to psychology in general and the developmental studies of the human experience, right? And what I discuss in there is how we are conditioned to protect the stories that keep us powerless. If you look around and you think about the money system and you think about the ways in which people are happily headed towards their own slaughterhouse, right? The way that we line up to be more separate from each other, more divided, to be more aggressive and angry with each other all the time, to be more conniving and get ahead at the expense of someone else we are with each other. And you look at how the what's influencing all that is religions like money and human authority, meaning somebody because they have a certain costume on or because they answer to a certain boss that we uh, prescribe authority to, that means they actually have moral authority over us, a moral right to rule us, and we have a moral obligation to obey them somehow. These religions I call the mother and father of all religions, right? The mother of all religions being the religion of monetary value, and the father of all religions being the religion of man's authority. Of course, there is an authoritative force in the universe, which would be the creator, the creative, the what made all of this, right? Like I'm a human being. My father and mother came together and they made love, and that resulted in the physical body manifesting. But the life that inhabited my body, or that inhabits my body, that's one with my body, that they did not make. Something else made the life itself. And we're back. Okay. Goodness gracious. So I think I'm going to have to do the stream without sharing my screen. Hopefully that's all right. But as I was saying, can't hear or see you. Yeah. It went away, my man's. And first of all, before I get back in the topic, let me just put this on screen. No, the book is not free. To pre-order the book right now, it's not free, but you can secure the low price of, I think it's like 17. Let me see, $17. Because it's $18, so $17.99 right now, and that's for a paperback copy to be shipped to your house if you're within the United States. And basically, if you go ahead and pre-order the book now, then you secure that price, because once the paperback is actually published, that price is going to shoot up. So that's the purpose of pre-ordering the book. Thank you for your question and all of your comments. I appreciate it. And I'm gonna get back into my little spiel. But basically what I'm saying is there is a force in the universe with authority, and it's not mankind, and it's not any small group of men or women. And the idea that we are morally obligated to be obedient to these people and these systems is wrong. And the parenting the teaching, the guiding of children to grow up in the belief bubble that we have to be and should be obedient to these systems and these people is also just as wrong. And so, me noticing that, I was an educator for about 7, 8 years of my life, and then and I've always been an artist. I've always had a love for putting my feelings into some sort of art form. Um, this relationship that human beings have with, um, you know, the religion of authority cannot really be dismantled or done away with without a very deep understanding of the self and how the self works. Knowledge of self is probably the oldest formal study of psychology that there is. And you could say psychology is actually a sub branch out of knowledge of self, because knowledge of self goes beyond the psychology of one person. Of course, there's aspects of the collective human family that impact how the self operates and what comprises the self. There are natural um, ways, to experience and to explore what the self is and what influences the self the most. Regardless of all of that, um, I am quite excited to get into my work that helps people fully understand the self and their self. And it's called the Inner Storyteller. So I'm going to pull back up my document here. There we go. So we can get to talking about, boom, the philosophical map to the Inner Storyteller. Now, the Inner Storyteller itself is a book. When you pre-order the book, or when you order the book, even after the paperback is published, it comes with a PDF that serves as a companion, right? A companion read. And I'll show you for a second. Hopefully, if I just share my screen for a quick second, it won't glitch out on me. But this, add to stage, is the Inner Storyteller, a philosophical map. You have the power to rewrite the story that defined you. This is a guide to the book itself, right? And I'm gonna stop sharing because I'm afraid that it's going to glitch out on me and kick me, and my computer is going to restart again. That's what happened, is my computer completely glitched and went haywire for a second and restarted. And then I was able to come back into the stream. And I figure it's because I was sharing my screen that's why my laptop went haywire. But regardless, the Inner Storyteller, a philosophical map, is a companion read to the Inner Storyteller, the main book, the main manuscript. It's a document that serves as a guide to the philosophical sequencing of the Inner Storyteller. And it's not simply a breakdown of chapters, but more so a map to the deeper movement beneath the chapters of philosophical ideas. Mark Passio often says that there are only two things that bring real and lasting change into the world or into the human family. The first is obviously technology. Technology as a whole, when you think about things from the pen and the pencil to paper, the printing press, the internet, the computer, the processor within a computer, the light bulb, the wheel, the axle, all of these inventions, right? These technologies, when introduced, the gun, right? The wrench, certain tools, all of these technologies completely changed the trajectory of the human family, the direction that we were heading in upgraded when certain technologies were introduced into the human family. So technology is the first of the only two things that bring real and lasting change. And the second is philosophy, okay, which can also be said as worldview. Okay, one's personal philosophy, one's personal worldview, or the collective shared philosophy or collective shared worldview of a certain region of the world can and does bring real and lasting change into the world. And of course, within philosophy, within worldview, as a huge umbrella topic, you have religion, you have, other faith systems that maybe don't qualify as religion. You have environmental factors that all of those things, and they result in books like the Bible being written, um, certain documentaries, and even fiction like The Matrix coming in, and they introduce a philosophy that has a measurable and noticeable change into the world and into the human family. We have technology and philosophy. Those are the only two things. You can't name something else that actually brings real and lasting change besides technology and or philosophy. And guaranteed, whatever you come up with is going to either be a technology or a philosophy. So that's why I wrote it. And that's what I'm very, very excited to get into with you guys. Let me check my comments one more time before I get over there. Let me see. When will the book be available? The book will be available in a few months. There's no set date yet. And of course, as soon as there is one, then it'll be added to that website, innerstoryteller.card with an extra r.co. That's innerstoryteller.card.co. But right now, we're just going to say, within the next 6 or 7 months, the book will be published and available, and we'll start shipping out the ones to the people that already bought the book via the pre-order. And the regular price will be added to that website. Now, when you get the book, you get with it the philosophical map, and I'm going to get into that right now. So it starts off, the heart of this book is the idea of the inner storyteller, which is the inner meaning maker through which human beings experience reality as story. Now, notice I don't say human beings experience reality as a story. Yes, we do have a story that we go through and that we observe in our own life, but that a story is real. It's ever changing. The important moments, the moments that we find and feel were the most important in our lives, change as we get older, right? We forget things that we thought were extremely important in our super duper youth by the time we're 16 and 18. And we forget things that were super important to our 16 and 18-year-old selves by the time we're 25 and 35 and so on. It's the same life cycle, but we interpret what is important and what is memorable much differently depending on who's talking, right? And so I don't say human beings experience reality as a story. I say human beings experience reality as story. That means our inner experience happens in story form. And we'll get into that. We do not simply live events directly. Okay. We interpret them. We associate the events that we go through with other events that we either witnessed or that we've gone through ourselves. We frame them within our personal worldview, within our personal philosophy. We anticipate based off of the events that are happening now. This means these other events will happen later, or this means these other events that happened before mean this and that, right? We interpret and anticipate. We remember and we assign significance to the events. And all of this is done in story form First this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and this story means this. Um, you take something that you find unfair. For you to feel that something is unfair, right? Somebody takes something that they had no right to take, and it was an unfair thing that they did. That's experienced in story form. The thing existed how it was, or the circumstance existed how it was. Then somebody introduced this action. And when they introduced this action, the aftermath was such and such. And that resulted in the feeling, the understanding, the inner experience of a story of unfairness. Okay. And a need for correction. This is how we experience life. And it doesn't just have to do with things that make us sad. It also has to do with things that make us happy. You know what I mean? I do make music. Don't lie on me. My man's is trying to distract me from the topic. But regardless, I'll do a rap. I'll do a rap on this live. Just stick around with me, and I'll spit some bars for y'all. Getting back to what I'm talking about. The inner storyteller is the force through which experience becomes narrative. Okay, through which sensations become meaning, through which memory becomes identity, and repeated interpretation becomes the patterns and cycles of our lives. In the language of this book, The Inner Storyteller, the main book, the inner storyteller is the third seat behind awareness and the seat of consciousness, which is called the I am. What this means is the inner storyteller is not merely some psychological glitch that we can, is there for a phase and then we grow out of it. The inner storyteller is so intimate to the human experience, so deeply baked and caked into our makeup, to what makes us human, that it extends beyond even one life cycle. Whether or not you believe in reincarnation, you were something existed before you entered into the body in your mother's womb. And this existence continues on somehow, some way, after the body ceases to inhabit the you that's inside the body. So that eternal being, the inner storyteller is with that eternal sense of yourself, not only just the self that is alive in the body while we're here in this 3D space, but as a spiritual aspect and eternal aspect of the human experience. And it also means that it's the most powerful dynamic force in existence, because awareness needs not to be is never doing anything, right? Pure awareness, the absolute principle, it just is. It simply is. It cannot be described. It cannot be quantified, qualified. It has no properties. It simply is. And tapping into pure awareness is something that only the most rare human being will ever do. Then the next seat, the second seat, is the I am. The I am knows that isness. Okay, awareness simply is. The I am principle, the second, largest field of intelligent experience, that seed of consciousness, that center point that separates the me from the universe, also very similarly simply is. But you can say with the I am, it also observes, right? And from there is the inner storyteller. The third seat is the programmer, this machine-like existence called the inner storyteller. And this is where our understanding has to begin. It cannot begin at a place where we are hearing the term the inner storyteller and we're thinking that it just means something that shuts off when we meditate deep enough and we quiet our mind and stop thinking our thoughts over and over again, and the endless chatter that goes on in the skull. It's not that. It's not even your conscience that gives you good advice when you're about to make a dumb decision. It's not your conscience. It's bigger than your conscience. It's bigger than the voices that are always going off in the skull, in the head. And it's bigger than your emotional body and your emotional memory. It's bigger than all of that. The inner storyteller is what dictates your inner experience as a human being and as a growing being in the universe. Moving on. The I am is the first spark of being. The inner storyteller is what begins arranging that being into lived experience. It is what says, this happened to me. This means danger, or this means safety. This means love, or this means hatred or disdain. This is who I am now, or this is not who I am. It is not consciousness itself. It's not God. The inner storyteller is not a, it's not God or anything, but the shaping force through which consciousness becomes personal, dramatic, remembered, and directional, right? We all feel that our life has a direction. We're sort of headed, even if we're headed into the unknown, right? We're in various phases of our life where it feels like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing it right, and I'm, a little anxious about it. These feelings are very common in the human experience, but even if we have those feelings, it's still, if you're sensitive enough, you will see that your life is moving in a direction. And what makes life feel directional, what gives that substance, that those kind of boundaries where you can see your life has a story to it, is the inner storyteller. This matters because human beings do not act only from facts. They act from the stories they believe those facts belong to. Let me say that again. This matters because human beings do not act from facts alone. We act based on the stories we believe those facts belong to. This is I cannot stress enough how important it is to really understand this concept. When you wake up in the morning, and right in between where you're actually getting into your day and you're just waking up out of sleep, right in between there, maybe you're still in bed, maybe you just started to move, but you're not actually into your day. There is a moment where your brain switches from being in a certain brainwave frequency to being in a much higher brainwave frequency, like going from theta to beta, I believe, but don't quote me on that. I'm not a scientist in that sense. I'm not trained in that jargon. But in that phase, when you're first waking up, there is a lack of logic that you can pull on. And the only thing that's happening is you are kind of seeing the story of your right now moment until the brain kind of kicks in. And now you're thinking about all the things you have to do today, all the things you forgot to do yesterday, how hungry you are, if you use the bathroom or not, blah, blah, blah. If you brush your teeth, those things then kick in, and then that's over. But right beforehand, if you pay attention, this is some homework for you guys enjoying this live right now. Be in the space as long as possible when you first wake up, whether it's from a nap or from, in the morning, where you're not thinking, and see for yourself that the storyteller is still active. Okay. So you don't have to be in a chatter mode to realize that you're not acting from facts. You're not interpreting, noticing facts and moving throughout your day. You're just observing a story play out, and something is conscious of that story of you waking up, and it's very present. It's very present state of mind. Again, it's before you start thinking about what you have to do in the day. All right, so I'm gonna move on. Now, fear, hope, trauma, authority, symbols, institutions, family, religion, money, and culture all press themselves into this inner storytelling process. There is not an aspect of your life that isn't directly connected to this inner storytelling process because of the fact that our inner experience always happens in story form, always forms itself around narrative. Over time, what is repeated becomes familiar, and what is familiar becomes believable. On the flip side, what is believable becomes behavioral reality. We behave within the bounds of what we believe we are supposed to do. And in this way, the inner storyteller becomes one of the deepest battlegrounds in human life. The place where meaning is assigned, identity is rehearsed, and obedience or awakening begins. Now, when I say battlegrounds, we are at war, people. You have enemies, people. It's unfortunate. We don't want them, but we have them. Okay? Look out your window. See for yourself how we treat each other. Talk with your friends and family who are honest with you, and reassure yourself that we don't want to act this way towards each other. But notice that we do, and notice that we don't readily have good answers for why we treat each other so horribly as a human family. I postulate, I put forth that we do this out of obedience to perceived authority. Okay, the excuses that we make for why we don't grow our own food, share more, provide more aid, stop obeying when the orders are given that are immoral orders. Why we don't do this. The excuses that we give are always tied to the mother and father of all religions, which is the religion of monetary value and the religion of authority, meaning a chain of command. Okay? So the inner storyteller is where the battleground takes place, because the inner storyteller, those at the very top have deep, intimate knowledge about how the human psyche works. They know, even if they don't have my language for it, what the inner storyteller is and how it is programmed and how to make the whole world serve them through the psychological processes and propaganda and the mind control methodology that they employ. And they are conducting the war on humanity in the realm of the inner storyteller, meaning they do things outside of our bodies that trigger the meaning-making machine in our psychology, make false meanings of things, and then keep making them over and over, because what gets repeated gets familiar. What becomes familiar is believable, and what's believable becomes our behavior patterns. Hope that makes sense. The parts that follow trace the process philosophically, meaning what we're going to get into as we delve deeper into this philosophical map. They do not merely deliver information in sequence. They show how the inner storyteller is formed, how it's conditioned, how it's wounded, how it's manipulated, but also how it's embodied, reclaimed, and finally called back into alignment with truth and principle. So that's all I have time to read from the map for today, for today's video. As promised, I got some bars for y'all. I'm gonna spit some bars for the homie. And yeah, much love. Make sure you go to innerstoryteller.ee CARRD.co and secure a copy of the Inner Storyteller book for yourself at the current price of just $18, under $20. Sacrifice an extra large coffee and a bagel, I guess. And let's see, what do I want to spit for the homie? I got a 16 for you. Here we go. Listen to the words, y'all. Listen to the sequence of the words, because I think it's very pertinent to what we got into today and leading into getting into the next video for whenever I release the next video. I want to say tomorrow, but I don't know. We'll see. It's different moving from intelligent to wise. Intentionally thrive, be exceptional, revise any gesture that describes infinitesimal demise, because the rest of it be mine over everything ye find. You are destined to design where your destiny resides. Lessen your replies, set intention to be guides, and only speak if it's appropriate, because the lesson is inside. The teacher in the front if the student's left behind, but the student can arise if they on the teacher's side. You get the point. Read the feeling found in between the lines. Phrases only bridge between meanings in the rhyme and the feeling that the lesson can relay unto your mind. So thank the universe for all the blessings in disguise, because the message in the sky reads, you're leveling with I. Now I see so much tension, I'm ascending just to cry. And it's elegant to try and reach a level you can fly with God. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace and love.